Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Call It Anything podcast. I am Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
and we are back here today. Been a while. Last one we covered was it? No, SummerSlam's too far back. Was it
Bash
SummerSlam?
Berlin.
Oh, Bash at Berlin. There we go. Yeah, that was the last one we covered. We're back here today with Bad Blood. But first off, getting into things, sir, how are you?
I'm fine. Feeling a little tickle in my throat. I hope I can just sleep off. And I just spent 3 weeks in jury duty. Grateful that it's over.
Yeah, I will say when it comes to being sick, I always hate when you can like feel it because it feels like inevitable. You're just hoping it passes, and then the next day you wake up like. I always think back to those days, especially during school, where it's like I would feel a little tightness in my throat. And I remember one time I confused my dad because I went up to him. I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to go to school tomorrow. And he was like, why? I'm like, I already feel like I'm gonna get sick. And he was like, how can you feel you're gonna get sick? And I'm just like, I can feel it in my throat. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow with a really bad sore throat and be really sick.
And I honestly think, like, I don't know what my mother would tell me to do, but if I took very specific steps right now, I can get over it tonight. You know what I mean? Like, go to bed early, drink lots of water. Maybe I'll even take a shower. There's like things that I would, as a youth like you, avoid doing and just make things worse. As an old man, I should be able to beat this.
After this recording, I'll go ask my mom for, as Marco likes to call it, the Mexican voodoo tips. Oh man, but glad to hear you're doing well, sir. Especially you're in the thick of the first semester so far.
Oh, we are, and we're grateful for this 4-day weekend. We're upon in honor of Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, and all I can think about is that you're approaching the dreaded period where you're approaching that period where it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas and everyone just wants to go home.
Here it comes, ready or not.
I remember those times because I just remember seeing all the teachers struggling to get people to care because it was like you get to Thanksgiving, you're ready for Christmas, and you're like, we still got a couple weeks of school left before we go on break. But getting right into things, sir, we're covering Bad Blood over in Atlanta, Georgia. What were your thoughts heading into this pay-per-view, sir?
There's a lot of storylines that are gonna come, to head this night. Punk and Drew, the Bloodline stuff, the Dom stuff. This is a very storyline-driven night.
Yeah. And,
where you and I,
it makes
we
sense
also like. It's true, and I don't think they've had one since like 2003. Is what I heard was like the last time this pay-per-view name was used. And like you and I think we find something to look forward to in lots of different wrestling shows, right? And this one isn't like the flips and tricks and things that are going to look real technically sound. This is that drama. This is that good old fashioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like we talk about this every time a new pay-per-view comes up, but it feels like it happens every time. But I felt like there was a lot of different controversy heading into this one due to the match card where, given the name, I will say every match on this card sort of fits that name, fits the whole story aesthetic, but there were some people that felt like some matches could have made it on here, and they weren't, and it led to a lot of, controversy, which again brought up the whole arguments and discussions that people keep having about the five match card that seems to have become the norm,
I don't know if you saw this, but I saw an article that said that the 5-match nature of the shows nowadays is to reduce travel costs. If you have 5 matches that feature 10 people, you're not flying as many people around the world like to get to these shows, right?
Yeah.
And that might be true, and it's what I'm leaning towards. The truth is usually like the simplest solution, Occam's razor, but like, if you got to put out 5 matches. That's like taking, you remember as a student, right? You could take a 20-question test or you could take a 5-question quiz. Like, if you miss one question out of 5, your grade has changed drastically. mathematically. So here we've got just sort of the stakes that if one of these matches under delivers, boom, you're looking at an 80% at best.
Yeah, and so, that's called into question where someone was saying, like, does it hurt to just add one, at most maybe two more matches to a 5 match card, And, this
Yeah.
prompted the discussion with my dad where I was telling him, it's like, Solis and I and my dad, we've all been very vocal about liking the 5 match card for time restraint reasons, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
it cuts down the time. You don't have to deal with these bloated, cards, Yes, obviously you want more wrestling on your card, but like we remember, the bloated days where it was like 14 matches on a card,
Heck
you
yeah.
know.
Hey, 14 matches that they would be able to fit in 3.5 hours.
Yeah. And so, I was saying to my dad, I'm like, I don't mind it in that sense, But my biggest complaint is that, I wouldn't mind the 5 matches because the common argument is it gives the talent more time in their matches rather than 14 matches that are only going each maybe like 7-10 minutes. It gives more matches time for their stories. But my issue is a lot of times it seems like they're doing that, but other times it just seems like they're not, and instead they're filling the rest of the time space with ads, and it's staying at that 3 hour long pay-per-view without really reducing anything because you're still wasting so much time with the ads, which I think is kind of a fair argument because it's like you sit there through ads, and then some people are like, oh, we'll just get Peacock Premium, then you get WWE's versions of ads, so it's like that's kind of my only complaint is like I think you can sacrifice a tiny bit of ad space to just fit maybe one more match to satisfy people, especially if it fits the criteria where some people felt like the match that ended up on Raw, which you've been a big supporter of the fact that it's helping, give more must-see matches to the weekly shows. Some people felt Sammy and Gunther for the world title could have been on this card as well.
Hey, and so like they're getting, Gunther and Sammy are given a main event slot that they wouldn't have gotten, right? Jey Uso's Intercontinental title win gets a main event slot and on a show that it wouldn't have been on Bad Blood. But to your point, when it's the main event of Raw, it's still interrupted by commercials.
Yeah.
I hate TV matches for that reason.
Yeah.
NXT does that to me when I'm getting really into it. Oh, this is a TV show after all. And so you just like have to endure that, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you, Jack, that, these matches, they're not filling in that time. Ads are. And who I think about too are the people live.
Yeah.
They're there live. They're gonna watch 5 matches. I think that's an easier sell if they're getting more matches that aren't being televised. Are they getting dark matches?
Yeah.
Are they getting extra matches, special matches, house show matches? Nowadays, Jack, they are not. Are they doing an AEW and filming multiple shows? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nah, they're getting a tight 5.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
The one thing I think of is when Ricky was at WrestleMania, and I think it was the Edge Finn match that kind of ended a bit early due to some things, and instead of like trying to figure something out, they just kind of filled it with ad space, and he was like, dude, we were waiting there for like minutes, like at least like 15-20 minutes just waiting for something to happen. They weren't filling that space with any like matches or anything, and like you were saying, yeah, it's cool to have those matches on the weekly show, but then you get the commercial interruptions that like really drag out. Like I would have really loved to see Gunther and Sammy for that world title, but as soon as it was announced for the weekly shows, I was like, well, it's going to be cut up by commercials. You're not going to get the full experience, The one thing I like that AEW has is that they have the picture-in-picture, which still allows you to see it. But the one thing I like is that they have a different service over for like their international crowd, where they don't get any commercial breaks. They just continue watching the match during those commercials. And so people will take that footage and upload it later for someone to watch the full match through without any cuts. And so I'm just like, I wish, WWE could do something like that where it's like, I would love to see the match in full and not cut through by commercials,
Netflix sounds like it's going to be, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers. I lost SmackDown because it moved to the USA Network. But piece by piece.
Yeah. But getting into the main show of the card, and another controversial thing that happened was the match placements, because we opened the show with arguably one of the most story-driven matches on this card in the WWE throughout the year. Started at the beginning of the year.
Easily has the baddest of blood.
Yeah, we got CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell match.
Jack, what are you thinking when you realize that they're going to do this one first? Do you know why?
No. I wasn't thinking at all. I was just like, huh. Like, the only thing I could think back to was that Roman Reigns quote where they were like, he either goes on first or he goes on last.
That's a good one. I didn't, I maybe heard the whispers of like the grumblings that it should go last. I didn't, and I wonder if they held back because they went on first. I wonder if what we got was what they were always going to do, or if they changed things up because of its placement on the card. I'm inclined to think that they did exactly what they would have done, and based on that, I'm grateful it went on first.
Yeah, and I've always kind of said, I always like, or I'm always more drawn to the first match because you get the crowd at its hottest, You get it's most interested. They're waiting for the show to go on. You're finally giving them.
Yeah.
I feel like the first match, you're almost guaranteed to get a bunch of cheers and chants.
Yeah.
To start because
the
everyone's
fans
just
are
excited.
Tired. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I saw this match was announced, the only thing I can think of was how you brought up, that like CM Punk was like hearing people's fantasy bookings about being in a Hell in a Cell, and yet here he is now being in a Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, they were talking about it like as their first encounter, like after the Clash at the Castle incident.
Yeah,
I mean, get out of here with that. But yeah, this was a more natural build, the third of a trilogy, right?
Yeah,
and it was exciting to see this week that somebody lifted that Drew McIntyre has had 3 fairly incredible trilogies in the last 3 years. It's the CM Punk one. He had a Seth Rollins one that ended at WrestleMania. And he had one with, they said they had one with Orton in 2020. I thought he even had one with Reigns, if my numbers are right. I know he fought Reigns a few times.
Yeah. I remember the Survivor Series match and then the Clash at the Castle one. A part of me wants to say he had a trilogy with Lashley that year in 2021, I think. I know they fought at Mania, and I think they fought at the pay-per-view after. I can't remember if it was 3.
Money in the Bank or something like that?
Yeah. But yeah, McIntyre's been on a really good run this year.
It's true.
And I will say, going into this match, I had high expectations, not only just because it's the Hell in a Cell match, but given the previous 2 encounters and how vocal I've been on this podcast about those 2 matches when we covered them, I had high expectations because I was like, I want to see, kind of like a roller coaster, just keep going, keep building upon each previous match. And I was very much looking forward to this one because, given the stipulation, given that this is the boiling point, I want it to be the best out of the 3,
Hey, and what did you think of the match, Jack?
I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Funny enough, I didn't get to watch it live because the Phillies were playing in the postseason. So my dad and I, we went out with my mom and my brother to a place to eat and watch the game. So we were watching the game while that was happening, so I had to catch afterwards. But I got the results spoiled for me. I saw people calling it Match of the Year contender, and if you've been with this podcast for a while, that usually sets up for disappointment a lot of times when, one, you already get the results spoiled and you have all these people setting expectations, but to me, it didn't disappoint.
That's awesome. It's funny when you were saying you had high expectations. Would you say, Jack, your expectations were about 20 feet high?
Yeah, maybe.
I had a teacher at school tell me, Mr. Sleaze, I don't know what I'm going to do. Dodgers play tomorrow, USC plays tomorrow, and Bad Blood? How am I going to choose what to watch?
Yeah, what I've started doing is I've started using my dual monitors to that advantage.
Wow.
I forgot what it was, but there was one time where I think it was like the Phillies game was on, and then like something wrestling was on, like AEW probably, and like I had them split screen so I could watch.
Yeah. This match was brutal.
Yeah. This match was kind of what I've been talking about wanting from both men, but it makes sense to build to this point, like you said, rather
Yeah.
than starting at the beginning. But it was
Yeah.
like, the first match, antics aside, bracelet aside, we saw some pretty hard hitting affair between the two through, non weaponry, just through their chops, their punches, and all that. The second one
Right.
obviously had the strap induced with it, but this third one, you know, the one thing you always think of with all these stipulation matches, what can they do that hasn't been done already, And though
That's
they
a good
did,
question.
yeah, though they did a lot that's been done, they still found ways to do things differently, And that's one thing I like. They used the cage pretty well. They used different, weaponry. Like Drew brought out the toolbox with the wrench.
The toolbox just made a lot of really great sounds.
Yeah.
It reminded me of a story that Stone Cold told about he hits Vince McMahon with a bedpan in that hospital.
Yeah.
He talked about like in rehearsal, like tapping the bedpan, looking for the sweet spot. That toolbox had a sweet spot of its own, and they found it, and it sounded great. It sounded devastating when Punk hits McIntyre with it, when it's thrown, even just throwing it on the ground.
Yeah, I was gonna say the toolbox found the sweet spot on McIntyre's head too.
Ah.
Yeah, that spot was pretty amazing. My dad was telling me he doesn't like. He saw some things saying that actually wasn't supposed to happen, or at least like it wasn't supposed to get him like in that area and get him that deep.
Yeah, it was really like I love when wrestlers are like in character. The referee is trying to clean him up with a towel, and Drew's like not having it. And then realizing what has to happen right after he gets Punk on the ground, rips the towel from the ref, pats himself down because like it is gushing.
Yeah.
It's gushing maybe as much as Finn was in that WrestleMania match that got slowed down, but ain't nothing slowing down here.
Yeah. Drew looked at the ref and told him, "We're going to Netflix soon, man. You got to let it flow."
Goodness, they're like, we need to make people fear Hell in a Cell. And I thought about that sentiment. People have wanted the Hell in the Cell to mean something again. And I thought about that when Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and was it Naomi?
I think so.
Yeah, the three of them, the hosts of Bad Blood, they're out there to announce the first match is Hell in a Cell with their sing-songy voice and all their glitter and their glamour. And I'm like, that's not what the cell's supposed to be. You don't announce it like it's the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. But they're like, here it comes, everyone.
I will say, I know it causes quite the debate within the wrestling community, but I was really glad to see blood, in this match because it
Yeah, on a show
element.
called Bad Blood. Can you imagine?
Yeah, could you imagine? I did see some people. I saw some opinions. So I don't know if it's fact or not, but I saw some people pointing out that CM Punk didn't run the blade like Drew did. Now Drew's was unintentional, but they were saying CM Punk was using a blood pack. So I don't know how to feel. I need to look into this. I need to know if I have more material to throw at Punk and get people angry with all my salt towards them.
Get the slow-mo. Get the slow-mo camera. Get the angles. Get your double monitor set up. Jack, whether it's real or whether it's fake. My reservations always come with whether, like, it's believable, right? Because, like, frankly, if it's fake, like, I could be convinced. My belief, I'm chucking out there to be suspended. And I think about John Moxley at Budokan, the Bushido show in June, him versus Barnett.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember Moxley versus Barnett. He takes a bump off the posts, goes under the table, and comes looking like he's in this cell match. And I'm like, come on, John.
What's the one that stands out to me? It's Forbidden Door 2022 when it was him and Tanahashi. And he took a sling blade, and then the next time you see him, he's bleeding from his forehead. And you're like, you took a sling blade. How do you start bleeding from that?
Jack, it's called a sling blade. Thank you. How do more people not get cut up by that? But we've seen hokey blood. I feel like Bryan Danielson's done it too. I think he bled in like that Shingo match. I'm like, what happened, man? Like,
Yeah, I think he took like a
throwing
power
you
driver.
around. But like honestly, maybe his skin is just so thin that it just breaks all the time.
Yeah, what's it called? What match was it? Was it the Nigel match? Was it the Swerve match? I don't remember. JR had a good call where he was like, Bryan Danielson will never wrestle at 100% ever again. Or
That's
like,
incredible. That's
no,
an incredible
he
call.
said Bryan Danielson will never know what it's like to wrestle a match without pain anymore. Like, without like feeling
Wow, what a
pain.
call!
Yeah. So, yeah,
Hey,
maybe that's
I don't
why he
know.
bled.
I don't know if Drew McIntyre is ever going to know what a match is like without pain because he took a back to the stairs off that missed Claymore. It's with all the blood, with all the big hits of the match, that one made me cringe the most.
Yeah. It reminds me of when we watched NXT in your house and Damien took that back bump to the stairs on the outside. Like they had it set up and he
Yes,
took that. But this one, like you said, all the weaponry, the wrench, the chairs, it's seeing a man land on just that, again, that sweet spot on the
the
back, lower
small of his
back.
back. You know what it reminded me of? That move that put Shawn Michaels on the shelf for 4 years in that
Yeah.
Undertaker casket match. Oh,
Yeah. Or I forget, I think it was Rick Rude. He took like a pretty bad one on the steps too. I think that messed up his back.
yeah, like
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah, so man, this was another spot that like I think my dad was saying he heard like some rumblings that like like he wasn't supposed to land at least that badly on the steps, but my goodness. But it also enhances the match because like again, your whole suspension of disbelief. You see that, yeah, you can believe Drew's not getting up.
And like there were parts where Punk is supposed to be coming back, and that kind of helps like me believe like, uh, I really thought Drew was going to win this thing, Jack. Like he's bigger, he's younger. He physically destroyed CM Punk in the last two matches. Like Punk won the last one by the skin of his teeth and because of the strap stipulation.
Yeah.
And so like all three matches, Drew is dominant and CM Punk is like the old guy trying to keep up. But maybe hubris was Drew's downfall from the beginning.
No, Drew's downfall was that doesn't work for the punker, brother. Do I sound like everyone on wrestling Twitter calling everyone Hogan?
Yeah. You don't know Hogan.
Yeah, you don't know Hogan. Calling everyone Hogan this year.
But like you can't call anybody Hogan except Hogan himself, and it's so funny and amazing how often he'll give us an opportunity to do that. Because as recently as I think that Vince documentary, yeah, I had creative control, but I didn't use it,
Yeah.
bruh.
Oh man, but no, seriously, gotta give props to both guys for this match. This was really good. Might end up on the top 10. Who knows? I gotta really look at my list because, like I told Mr. Solis before this, man, I've been struggling to even think of what I'm gonna put on it. I only have really one match that I know is going on it.
I didn't want to skip the spot, let it go undescribed. But Jack, he goes in. Drew had got that bag. Is it going to be a bag of thumbtacks? I thought, Jack, it would be amazing if it were a bag of broken glass.
Oh,
I was hoping it was going to be. Did you have any thoughts what was in the bag?
well, I knew it wasn't gonna be thumbtacks because I'm like, we're not quite on Netflix just yet.
Right.
But honestly, I didn't even know what to think of what was gonna be in it. Like I was
Yeah.
like, maybe they do go far enough with thumbtacks, but I wasn't really thinking of the story too much. Where I was like, what could they put in here that has like connection to the both men?
And what was your reaction to what was in the bag?
I will admit I kind of rolled my eyes a bit when I saw the beads coming out because I was like, oh boy, we're still with this, but it's been there from the beginning.
Yeah, and like it's fitting. It would suck just as much to land on those.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy, Jack, in that big building from the farthest see it in the house, I'm sure you can see the light blue, the red, the fact that they're beads, you know?
Yeah.
Like in the people's reaction. Like they were into this, like you said. And I thought that was good. That's real good. That's hokey. That's dumb. But I liked Punk stuffing his mouth with them. I loved Punk wrapping his knee in the chain to hit his GTS with a chain on his knee. And I liked the part where he looked dead in the camera and went, "Take that, baby." Shouting out Adam Cole's inability to do exactly that. I'm still salty about that Kyler O'Reilly trilogy.
Oh man, I totally forgot about that.
I haven't. I thought about it on Saturday.
But we start the show off hot.
But I read your wrist, Jack. It was good. I'm glad you and everyone enjoyed it. I don't know, Jack, if we're ever truly going to capture the magic that is Hell in a Cell without somebody getting chucked off the thing or through the thing. I think until we get that done, and I think there's lots of ways of doing that safely, that no Hell in a Cell will truly compare to what we remember. And that's what really, I think, made it stand out from every other match type, was that threat, that potential for somebody. We saw it most recently with Shane McMahon, that crazy psycho jumping off of it. Remember when Sammy would turn heel and pulled Kevin off that table?
Yeah. I will say, what's it called? I feel like if you follow this podcast enough, you've seen that has been the biggest complaint from you and I, is that we just kind of feel like they don't utilize the cell as much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I kind of agree with that little bit of criticism where it's like, I don't know, like they did a lot of creative stuff. Like the one I always remember is when we were talking about Bailey and Banks back in 2020. You know, and we liked the creativity of it, using all the different things. But like, you know, I also think to other Hell in a Cell matches they've had, you know, Seth, Edge and Balor, you know, it's like it still felt like even then they weren't utilizing that cell enough, you know.
Edge and Balor did have color-coded kendo sticks, so there was that.
Oh man, but you know, starting off the night pretty good, you know. So
Agreed.
far, 1 for 1, you know.
1 for 1.
And like you said, with a 5-match card, every point matters.
Every point matters. And this next match, going to be a banger for sure.
You know, we move on to our next match, and it is the Women's Championship on the line. Right? I hope I have the order right.
You are right.
Okay.
And I'm facetious when I said my banger line.
We have champion Nia Jax defending against Bayley. So rematch from SummerSlam.
When I boo, I want Bayley to look over and go, "Are you saying boo or boo Ailey?"
Man. What were your thoughts on this match, sir?
Boo! Boo Ailey! This one was, this one, Jack, like, it was just the kind of match where in the beginning I'm really preoccupied with that 5-match structure. I'm like, we got 5 matches, and one of them is this one? No stipulation. There's a title on the line. It's Nia Jax. It's Bayley. It's boring versus, moderately better than she was in their first run.
Yeah. That's why, I found it kind of weird they didn't go with Gunther versus Sammy,
Mm-hmm.
Might have preferred that one, especially because it's like, I don't know, like my dad, even my dad, who was a big Nia Jax fan, was caught off guard by this match being on the card because he was like, running that back again,
Yeah, and the SummerSlam match I didn't enjoy, enough to say, oh, I'd love to see that again. Drew and Punk, this is not.
Yeah, and to me, it's especially there's a lot more interesting matchups you could have gone with, I mean, we saw Nia have a fun match with Mia Yim on SmackDown in a street fight.
Absolutely.
And I get it. Maybe having it on the same card as a Hell in a Cell might have been redundant, because it's like you have to vary your spot so it's not just the same thing over and over. But it's like, could have been something different,
And so the biggest difference that this match had going for it was the element, the sort of the mystery, the secret ingredient of Tiffany Stratton and her Money in the Bank contract. like I think for this match, I was waiting for whether if she was going to do anything with that. We were kind of all biding our time until we knew whether or not she was going to do anything with that. And Jack, when her music hits, I mean, we can talk about spots, but when Tiffany's music hits, she has a great song, has a great sting. She came out House of Fire with her briefcase. Everything changed. It felt so much better and more interesting.
Yeah.
Until we get to that point, it's a Nia Jax match with Bayley, with babyface Bayley.
Yeah, we get a cool little story where she helps out Nia because the ref is down, but then the briefcase gets knocked loose and the ref sees it, picks it up, and that's right as Nia turns around and she assumes that Tiffy was trying to cash in on her.
Nia just doesn't look. She does the Undertaker sit up, which was great.
Yeah, we get a near fall, but overall Nia Jax wins this match, and I don't know. I have to say this seems like one of my biggest criticisms I have with almost like it seems like a lot of companies, almost every company, is that they put championships on people and they just can't seem to follow up the momentum, because it's like we're saying, it's like a Nia Jax championship run could be interesting, given what type of matches you go with. Bless you, by the way, sir.
Thank you.
Like how I think even when she won it, we proposed certain people that we would like to see her match up with that, could pose for interesting matchups. But it's I don't know. It seems like a lot of times they don't go these routes, multiple different companies. And it's sometimes I feel man, either they're afraid to run these types of matchups or they just don't see what maybe other people see, in those matchups, for example.
And you know what? I might be proven wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong. Somebody could tell me that there was something about Bayley versus Nia Jax that I was missing. But frankly, I'm not looking forward to her hitting the Rose Plant. Yeah. I'm like, oh boy, I can't wait till she hits the Rose Plant. No, never.
And to me, it felt like nothing was really too different from the previous one. So, So yeah, I am kind of a bit let down by this. Mainly,
you know what? No, something else I heard just in the wrestling internet sphere that people were predicting. Another direction this story could have taken. Naomi and Bayley have this friendship that should be on rockier ground than it actually is, just because Bayley got this match by beating Naomi. You know what I mean? And Naomi's been around since January looking for her chance of greatness, This match would have been better with Naomi.
Yeah.
And it would have been worthwhile if Tiffany doesn't end up cashing, right? If Naomi did something, but she's up in the suite partying with all the legends because that's the thing we do now. And we're 1-2, Jack. The count's 1-2.
Yeah, I will say I think that's always been my biggest critique when it comes to WWE is in their continuity. I hope a lot of people don't get mad at this, but there's a lot of people who are very complacent with their spot in terms of the story and continuity of the WWE storyverse. There is quite a lot of people who are just fine being where they're at or going back to where they were at,
They're getting rid of Def Rebel. Here's hoping that with that move, Bayley has a song that's that can excite me. Drew's shrink, Punk's what does she have? This garbage. I'm a role model. Something indiscernible.
Yeah, I want to see more urgency from some people. When it comes to
let's go
to these feuds, to these championships.
Hey,
it's
NXT is busting at the seams with female talent. Bring it up. Bring them up.
Yeah, I will say that's the one thing that I always think of is I'm always kind of just at this point I go to different companies for different types of things, so I don't get too upset anymore when WWE is doing what they're
find our
used to
fix
do.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
but honestly, But this is the same company, Jack. This is the same people. They're not. This isn't AEW. There's no Forbidden Door. It's the same house. Bring Jada Parker up. Jada Parker versus Nia Jax. You don't have to write nothing. All Jada Parker's got to do is think that Nia Jax looked at her funny. Bam! Match of the year for sure.
Yeah,
Nikita Lyons just came back. Nikita Lyons versus Nia Jax over what? Nothing. Over cattiness.
Yeah, just get some urgency in there. Pull who was it, Booker T and Christian fighting over a shampoo commercial?
Heck yeah. Come on now. Don't act like that wasn't great. Jericho spilled coffee on Kane. They had a last man standing match at Armageddon 2000.
Oh, man. But yeah, a lot of interesting directions they can go. And again, it just doesn't seem like they're going that way with some of these people, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to like bring up the other company, you know, like how many people do in arguments, but it's like AEW is kind of going through the same thing right now with Mariah, where it's like a lot of people just feel like, man, for such a long-term story that was built, you know, before they had even signed Mariah, you know, and like they had pitched that story to her, for a story like that, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of follow-up in the sense of, well, what did they plan for her once she won, you know? And that's what I feel like is, like I said, is the big issue I have with a lot of companies. It's like they build the chase and then they don't know what to do after.
That's what happened to Hangman, right?
Yeah. Hangman.
Hey,
it's weird because, again, there were places for them to go with Hangman and they chose not to go with them, you know? It was like you had the obvious story with MJF. You had a lot of different stories with other members of that roster at the time. And, like, they didn't, you know? They, like, kind of went some basic routes. And I was just like, man, you know, you aren't really capitalizing on the momentum you built.
How about Toni Storm? Did you see her Stardom match this weekend?
I did not.
Toni Storm challenged for the Stardom belt, like, over the weekend. Like, timeless Toni Storm, like, just like, I guess, an excursion.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I'm kind of weird, like weirded by. But then also at the same time, I think back to like my main complaint of Forbidden Door, and so like I'm kind of okay with it. And that's that, like, you know, we're kind of acknowledging that like all these different wrestling promotions coexist in one universe. Yeah. But when you're in their promotion, you're not taking into account what's going on in the other ones in a way, you know? Like, the last we saw Toni Storm in AEW, she walked out and, like, just was, like, looking real crazy after losing the title, and then, boom. In Stardom, she's, like, kind of her normal self, so it's like, you know AEW is going to have, hopefully, some story for when she comes back, but it's kind of cool to see it's like, we're going to tell our own thing with her. We're not going to be too confined with AEW's sort of booking.
Yeah, Jack. That's what I thought of Bayley versus Nia. But we went on quite the journey.
Yeah, that should kind of go to show how interested you were. That a lot more interesting stuff to talk about.
Ooh.
And you know, I think my dad will agree. And much like I am a hater of CM Punk, my dad will put the full blame on Bayley for this match.
Yeah.
But moving on to our next one. Normal match again. We got Damian Priest versus Finn Balor.
Which, by the way, Jack, has happened maybe only once before at that In Your House that you cited.
Yeah.
I was very surprised when the commentary reminded me of that match, because I don't know if you recall my reaction to that match. I hated that match because I believe Damian wins, and I don't remember who drew first, Han or Greedo, who shot first, right? I remember it. It's burned in my memory.
I remember.
Do you remember? So I think Damian's in the corner. He's sitting in the corner. He's he's all pain. He's all full of pain. Finn gives him the finger guns because he's Finn Balor. Finger guns, Bullet Club, and what does Damian Priest do, Jack?
He does his little bow and arrow. I remember.
He did a little bow and arrow. It was like right in front of his face. He went, pa-chew, and I'm like, how far have we come, Jack? I have turned such a corner on Damian Priest because, hey, and listen, I would like to point out, hated Damian Priest in the arrow thing. Guess what? The former heavyweight champion, main eventing Damian Priest stopped doing? The arrow thing. I'm just saying.
Oh man, what were your thoughts about this match, sir?
I was looking forward to it. They gave this one a lot of time. They did a lot. I really enjoyed this match. This was a battle of Finn wrestling Damien and Damien just like hurting him. He was working strong. He was working hard.
Yeah, I think the biggest spot that like exemplifies that is when he like clocks him. Like
Yes, like that
loud.
with that elbow or with his fist. Was it just like a closed fist to the face?
I think it was a closed fist.
Yeah.
And hey, if you want to talk, want to bring back the continuity thing. If I was a wrestler, I would fully, be targeting Balor's jaw because he's broken that thing before. So that's a weak point that you can target quite a lot.
Heck yeah. But no, this is a match I enjoyed from beginning to end. This is when maybe Jack, I started thinking, not even that Hell in a Cell match. I'm like, hey, is this a top 10? Is this a top 10? I don't know if it's a top 10. Because, no stipulation. This is another match. It's got a lot of story behind it.
Yeah. Has the Indian interference.
I was just about to say, this is the one that you think was going to get a lot of interference, and they paid it forward.
Yeah.
And Damien wins.
Yeah.
And Damien even picks up the win. I think the right guy won. Finn, continues to amaze me at how quick he is at being goofy one day. You know what I mean? Like silly Judgment Day one week, and then just like the coolest guy in the room the next, almost effortlessly.
Yeah. And also, it's like he takes all these losses, but like he can still get you very much interested in whatever his next story is.
I tell you for sure, Jack. Like, yeah, I took a big OL here, but I'm still down with Finn. He's just a cool dude.
Yeah, pretty good one. Really enjoyed it. After that, we get a little segment in the ring from Triple H, just announcing, they're gonna be doing Crown Jewel November 2nd in Saudi Arabia. And then they unveil the Crown Jewel Championship, which is going to be the two world champions in both the men and women's division facing off against each other for it.
Yeah, I interpreted Jack as this is kind of going to be like a King of the Ring of the autumn. You kind of have Royal Rumble in the winter. King of the Ring was in May. This is just like no one ever puts up their King of the Ring status in a match. No one ever like defends their Royal Rumble win. This is, I think, just going to be something that they list when they go, hey, he's a 6-time WWE champion, 2-time Intercontinental champion, 1-time Saudi Arabia. He beat the other champion.
Yeah.
There's another notch on the old belt.
And, got to bring it up to be fair, Wait, dang it. There was something I was going to say about this, and I just can't remember what I was going to say about the championship. But I know the one thing I was going to say, sir, it's your favorite. It's a champion versus champion match. 2 of them.
I have to eat my words because this one doesn't bother me as much because there's a history, like Survivor Series. Brand supremacy. Jack, this is brand supremacy without saying it. And I like... So long as you're a company with 2 world champions, it is a neat focus or a neat sort of purpose for that match, for that like event. I think Saudi Arabia wants to have a really purposeful event. So who's the champion of champions? It's gonna be Gunther. This feels like something they created just to give Gunther something else. But, this one doesn't irk me as much.
Yeah. So, very interesting segment. But
this is an Intercontinental champion versus heavyweight champion.
But we move forward to our next match for the women's world champion. It is Rhea Ripley challenging champion Liv Morgan, and Dominic Mysterio will be lifted up in a shark cage.
You know why else I'm not bothered by that champion versus championship match? Neither of their titles on the line. Nobody's going to walk out with 2. I'm sick of that, Jack. I'm sick of somebody with two. If Gunther has a second one, it's going to be that big, gross green Saudi Arabia one for a week.
Yeah, very true.
I'm back with you, Jack. Dominic's in a cage. I didn't realize he was scared of heights, but good to know that he is.
What are your thoughts on this one, sir?
Um, it was good. It was good until it wasn't. I don't want to go too far. I don't want to go too far. Jack, what do you think of this?
I thought it was all right, nothing too crazy. Again, I don't look to WWE for a lot of women's matches too much, so it was all right to me. My biggest complaint is that they've swerved Rhea in the sense of you got a character who did really heinous things, did really bad things, and the only reason they're now a face is because the crowd likes to cheer for them. And now they've stopped doing a lot of the things that they used to do that made them, I won't say entertaining because, Rhea's still entertaining, Swerve's still entertaining, but it's like all the stuff that was pivotal to their character isn't very much present, for that sake. And because of that, I feel like it's also kind of hurt Liv because it's like, I don't know, Liv's booking kind of confuses me because it's like she returned, she was going after Rhea. She had it's like Hangman and Swerve. It's like she has very much reason to go after Rhea. She has very much reason to be looked at in the right, but yet she's looked at in the wrong because everyone really likes Rhea, and so because of that, they now have to pivot, and their pivot is Liv, who was going after Rhea in her return, talking about wanting to fight her, is now running away scared because she has to play heel, and that's the only sort of heel character they can come up with. Like, I don't know. Those are the only 2 points I want to make that, like, I feel like kind of has hurt this story a bit for me. Mm-hmm. But, I still thought it was a, good match, like you said. But there's just some story elements that aren't, like, clicking with me the way they are with others,
Yeah, like, what was the purpose of the shark cage? I know what the purpose of the shark cage was, but, like, if you think too long about it, the story really falls apart because there isn't a lot there, right? Like, what was its purpose? How is that ever going to help Rhea retain the championship? I mean, maybe it was to minimize the amount of interference, right? But really, what's the point of that if Rhea's going to leave the match voluntarily to go beat up Dom? She literally tells the ref, it's the only reason why the ref has a camera on his shoulder is so that we can see Rhea go, hey, I'm going to go outside and beat him up with this kendo stick. And he goes, go for it.
Yeah, I think you hear the ref go, yeah, you deserve it.
Say less, fam. And, like, the cage is really there, Jack, so that he can fall out of it, hang by his leg, which was a great visual. Yeah. Like, it was well done. Beating him up like a piñata. Love it. Wish everything that happened after that lived up to this moment, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and I will say, continuing the topic of continuity, I want every wrestler, specifically every heel wrestler, or even, it could be heel or face depending on the scenario, but it probably would work more for face. I want every face to now demand that this refs their matches so that they can just do a bunch of damage to the heels that want to interfere without repercussion.
You don't want this match referee, Jack, to referee your matches because he doesn't miss anything. And he called for the bell because he had to call for the bell because he saw everything.
That is true. No, that's why the heels wouldn't want him.
Ah, touche. Babyface, you can get away with whatever you want to. Well, she lost. But she lost, Jack. Because who came out to ruin everyone's fun?
The returning Raquel Rodriguez.
Who got no reaction, Jack. It was devastating how little reaction she got.
Yeah. A pretty flawed ending of the match.
Yeah. And, like, it just goes from bad to worse when they call for the bell. Raquel still carries out her giant spine buster move and puts Liv on top of her. Clearly what she was supposed to do. But that ref was supposed to be down. I think what I need to tell all the heels, hear me out. Take your notebook out. Write this down. Always beat up the ref. If you see him on his feet, beat him up. Knock him down.
Well, he's not looking because then he'll disqualify you.
Give him another wata.
do the classic, hey, what's that over there? And then, like, beat him up.
Boom. Come on now, they're made of glass. How you been called out by a WWE referee? Jack, in 50 years, has anyone gotten called out so blatantly by a WWE referee? That man was like, hey, ring that bell. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I usually try not to let, finishes really influence what I think of the match, but like this is one of those matches where like you see the finish and you're just like nosedive, nosedive from
Oh,
what I thought.
yeah. And like, we should care more. Raquel has all the storyline reason to want to attack Ripley. She has all the storyline reason to want to align with Liv. But even when she was around the first time, she was boring then. She's boring now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We're batting two for four, Jack. We're rocking 50%.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm just like, again, when it comes to some of these title reigns, I'm just like, I feel like we're at a loss of direction at times, or like, with this one specifically, it just feels like treading water because it just feels like we're trying to find a way to give Liv a reign while still circling back to getting the title back to Rhea at some point.
And you know what? Maybe like what's really well, Liv having the title, like Liv has a very defined storyline in her battle with Rhea. It doesn't need the title. They're fighting over Dom or over Pride or over, you know what I mean? Like the title could live on its own and be fought somewhere else and not get kind of muddied by the drama.
Yeah. And like all I can think of is that like statistic. It's probably like outdated by now because we've seen a couple more new faces win it. But like I remember that statistic where it's like other than a couple of names, like the two titles had been like a majority on the four horsewomen, and
Oh,
like
I remember
and
that.
they had been going just from like horsewomen to horsewomen pretty much.
Right.
And like I feel it like it's very much the same now, except it's like these two titles just feel like they're circling between the same couple of names with the occasional new person thrown in.
Yeah.
But like it never feels like a reign starts and it's gonna go to a different talent without first passing through certain names.
I hear you. What I would love is for like, you know, um, what's her name? Boring one. Um, Shoulder blades. Raquel. What I'd love for
Oh,
Raquel to do is go, hey Rhea, you and me next pay per view premium live event, and I want Rhea to go, no, I want Dom, and I want Liv to go, I know what you want, my title. Well, why don't we go 1-1 again? And she goes, I want Dom. And what if they're like, I know. What if you get a tag partner? It'll be Raquel and Liv versus you and whomever you. And she goes, no, I want Dom. And she wins the Royal Rumble again. And she's like, I want Dom.
oh man. Yeah. But moving forward, we move forward to our main event. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu.
Jack, how, clap, are they going to get along? Clap, clap, clap.
How will they coexist? Well, as my dad and I like to say, it's a bloodline match, so you don't care until the final 10 minutes of it.
And I know it's funny. I had that exact realization too, Jack. And in a 2 out of 4, 500 night, I'm like, oh, oof, oof. This match has got a lot of work to do.
What do you think of the match?
It was a standard Cody match, like I was saying about like Bailey, right? Like, is there a move that I'm looking forward to that Cody hits, that Solo hits? Jacob, I'm looking forward to. I want him to be in the match more. And then the crowd's eating this up, Jack. They want Roman in there.
Yeah. And it's funny you say like you're looking at Cody like wondering what move you're looking forward to. We would be looking forward to the Crossroads if he wasn't using 3 of them on every person he faced.
It's like, this is just, to serve a storyline. So, like you said, can we skip to the good part?
Yeah, we skip to the end. You obviously get Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa showing up, but then who returns? Jimmy Uso. And I like the commentary where Michael Cole's like trying to like still be like in character. Is like, who the heck is that guy? You know, like there's some random guy just standing there. You know, like maybe it
Yeah.
seemed like some fan jumped the barricade.
Honestly, it looked pretty good. You know, like his face was completely covered. He showed up out of nowhere. He was under the ring. And Jack, I don't know if you noticed, but in the Drew Punk match, did you notice the monitor under the ring?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I saw it. Yeah, like they pull up a curtain too far and you can see the glow of a monitor.
Oh man.
But it honestly didn't cross my mind. And I'm sure at this point in the night I would have forgotten. And so Jimmy getting that like big reveal, like it worked and it was cool and he starts super kicking everybody.
Yeah, and then of course Cody and Roman close out the match. Get a bit of a stare down between Roman and Cody because Roman wants, or making it seem like he wants his title back, and that's the end.
And also,
right?
well, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say like there was a really heartfelt moment between Roman and Jimmy.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I forgot about that.
just sort of surprised to see Jimmy come to his side. We're slowly building, you know, the old bloodline there, Jack, and it was a nice tender moment that truly ended the night. Copyright, roll credits. Let's go to the press conference and hear Triple H say things he wants to take back immediately.
But it doesn't end there because instead
It doesn't end there.
the bloodline starts beating down on Cody, and you know Roman's trying to walk away. Jimmy's telling him to help him, saying like, you know, you promised. And Roman, you know, I kind of like this. You know, Roman's arguing like, I only promised him help for this match. You know, like he's like it was only the one time. This is his battle now. You know, but it's Jimmy who convinces him to go back and help. They fight off the two, and that's it, right? That's when we get closing credits, executive producers of this show to the press conference.
Jack, except what's that I hear? When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside. It's the modern day Hulk Hogan. That doesn't work for me, brother. It's Dwayne The Rock People's Champion still carrying that stupid belt around Rock.
Oh, man. The Rock shows up, and my dad immediately says, why? And, of course, the funniest thing, you talk about CM Punk talking about people in their fantasy bookings. We got people fantasy booking The Rock in War Games.
Unbelievable.
The man who hit a spine buster and looked gassed after it. You're saying he's going to pull up to War Games? Only way he pulls up to War Games is if he pulls an Okada and takes no bumps at all.
No, Jack, he's the first one in and the longest one in there. Hey, so actually, I didn't see this live. I saw it the day after, and Jack, it almost got spoiled for me. Cultaholic is terrible with this. Always has 3 pictures in the thumbnail for what happened at. It had The Rock on it, it had CM Punk on it, and it had Goldberg on it. And I go, well, actually, I'm not sure what any of those men do. I was like, actually, I'm not sure if Punk has got a face of defeat or victory. I don't know what the hell Goldberg was doing, except they were in Atlanta. And then I go, and actually, I'm pretty sure The Rock doesn't do anything. And sure enough, Jack, we get almost nothing because he stands there, to quote Patrick, menacingly.
Yeah, stands there. I think he does like something with his hands, like countdown or something, and he just walks out.
It's funny how, like, actually, that's a callback to, like, 2001 when he used to promise to put people down 1, 2, 3. He goes from index finger, middle finger to, like, the last 3 fingers. It's something that we've seen him do. And people are interpreting that in a lot of ways. Is he threatening a triple threat match with him and Cody and Roman? That sounds very brotherly of him.
Yeah, very, very much wondering where this goes, you know.
But this, Jack, is why the Hell in the Cell was first, because Rock isn't going to walk out and be exciting and interesting in the middle of the card, brother.
Yeah.
Nah, camera's going to close on.
And, you know, of course, the worst nightmare, you know, talking about wanting, you know, title reigns to go in different directions. Cody Rhodes is still very much tied to this bloodline story that he very much shouldn't have been, you know?
He is, except did you see what happened to him later that night?
Yeah, I saw that because Ricky sent it to me.
That was great.
Yeah. Predicting maybe probably the Saudi match, maybe? Oh, no, he's going to be fighting Gunther. That's right. No, so who knows? Maybe they more than a part of me feels like they're gonna throw it on SmackDown, but a part of me would wish that they throw it on Survivor Series so that he isn't involved in the bloodline stuff.
Oh yes, that'd be perfect. Does the Bloodline have plenty of talent to involve without like the Avengers team that I've seen of Roman, Cody, Kevin, and Randy? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Get out of here with that. You got plenty of Samoans to work with. Use them all. You're not even using them all.
but that closes our night in Atlanta. What were
Yeah,
your thoughts on the show, sir?
It was a real down the middle show, and it's got me worried, Jack. That like that, if we don't tighten up around here, if we're not a little more discerning about the matches we put on these cards, they're always going to be kind of like C plus nights,
Yeah. Yeah, I wish they can add one or two more matches while still keeping the same time, because it's like you don't need that many commercials that they show.
No, and you know what's maddening about like a night like this one, Jack, that's down the middle? Like they used to complain that there are too many shows in 1 year. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember 13, 14 shows in 12 months? These are being spaced out very well. There's lots of time. There's lots of build. We didn't need Nia versus Bayley on this show.
Yeah. I would argue I didn't even want to see the rematch of that, but it's like if you were going to, you could have easily put it on a different show with more space.
Or put a stipulation on it.
Yeah.
Put I don't know, Bad Blood. First blood match, please.
I don't think we've ever seen one of those with a woman. I would gladly see what they do, And then
when they do it, Chelsea Green's going to be in it.
And of course, you're like trying to think of what to look forward to with all these different reigns, and it's like you got the Saudi show where they're going to be fighting. I don't want to roll out a match before it even begins, but like I've seen people say, it's like, are we really looking forward to Liv and Nia? The same way you're looking forward to like a Gunther Cody.
Goodness gracious! My heart just sank when you said that, Jack.
Yeah, really sucks because I feel like a lot better could be done, and like I don't know. At this point in my wrestling fandom, I just feel like a title is almost a curse to a lot of different wrestlers, because it's like they have this momentum, they stick a title on them, and then they just don't do what you were expecting them to do with said title,
Yeah.
Like I'm worried AEW is going to throw a title on Takeshita, and they're just going to have all his defenses be against people no one wanted to see him face off against.
Speaking of which, are you going to watch Wrestle Dream?
I might. A lot of different interesting matches. It's kind of like this card where I'm just like up and down in terms of interest of like certain matches, It's a weird card this time around.
Very. Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Takeshita. You're like, that's funny. That's the one combination of these three people I don't think I'd want to see, but here we are.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson versus Moxley.
I'll take it if Danielson isn't losing. I know that would kind of be weird for Moxley's story right now, but it's just like, especially because the way they've built this, it doesn't feel like Danielson's last match. Like there doesn't seem a lot of urgency to that, But, Danielson's kind of been doing a good job, like trying to get it up to that point in recent weeks.
Yeah.
I will say the one that I'm most interested in, ironically enough, doesn't involve any titles. It's Brody King and Darby Allin, because those two in their previous matches, they kind of go crazy. I kind of wish there was a stipulation, but at the same time, they've done so many stipulations before that I kind of welcome just a straightforward match, I'm trying to remember what else is on the card. I know Willow's fighting Mariah, but again, Doesn't really seem like a lot of direction with Mariah, so I don't know how to feel about it. Some people want Willow to win, but it's like Willow can win, and I'll like it, but what's the direction going forward after that, you know? Like, do you have something planned for Willow, or is it going to be, you know, what's happening with Mariah right now?
Yeah. We got Hangman versus Jay White.
That could be good. That could be for, like, a second year in a row. Hangman has a pretty good match at Wrestle Dream for the second year in a row that, you know, catches a lot of people by surprise.
Trip out on this, Jack. You got Hologram versus the Beast Mortos.
Oh, I saw that one announced. I think it's 2 out of 3 falls.
It is 2 out of 3 falls. Like, what are you doing there? I love it. I want to see it. You had me at the Beast Mortos, but you just kept going, huh?
Yeah.
And then Jack Perry versus Shibata.
Oh, is that Jack Perry?
You know, that Shibata is enough to cancel out Jack Perry. I like Jack Perry. I like how the world reacts to him, you know? I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
He doesn't annoy me as much as, like, he annoys you or a lot of other people annoy me.
I wouldn't say he annoys me. I just can't get into him.
I see. Yes.
That's always been my issue with the pillars. That was so funny to see. That was, you know, 3 out of the 4 pillars can't get me interested in most of the stuff they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's looking like an interesting card. Might tune into it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up tuning into All Out, but like in the background. But I saw a majority really liked that show. So
I didn't, so this might be the one I pull the trigger on.
Yeah. They got me like at the final second to like tune in via, you know, people showing it, you know, but like, I don't know. I'm kind of reaching a point with AEW where I'm like, I know you can draw me in with just your match quality alone, but I'm looking for a little extra with some of these matches, you know?
Yes. You know, like, Danielson and Nigel McGuinness should have been on Wrestle Dream. We should have built weeks. We should have heard Nigel run him down for weeks, but you just hot shotted it to some weird weekly thing you do.
Yeah. I would have much rather it be on Wrestle Dream because, of course, it's in Danielson's home state, you know?
Heck yeah.
And I would have rather Mox and Darby be on Wrestle Dream, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is always the toughest time for AEW because it's like they have so much stuff back to back to back to back. And it's just like, I feel like it kind of hurts. And now with the inclusion of Wrestle Dream where October used to be open for them, it's like now it's another thing. So it's like you literally go all in, all out, Grand Slam, Anniversary, Wrestle Dream. Oh, and then they did Title Tuesday this past Tuesday. So it's like you have all this stuff. It's like how do you build to a pay-per-view while not wasting it on these other big cards, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, still interested to see a couple of those matches. Trying to think outside if anything's happening, but can't really think of much, you know?
Zack Sabre Jr. is challenging Naito for the championship. He's cashing in his G1 Climax victory early. And he's doing it in Mario, England, I think. That happens this month. Not at Royal Quest. Royal Quest, Jack, it would have been some obnoxious pay-per-view blocked from our access. So he's doing it at, I forget the name of the show, but it's one that they're going to have on New Japan World.
Yeah. Where is he a bit, you know, that does he win it? I mean, you feel like he has to.
You got to take it off Naito. The man's held up by duct tape and dreams.
Yeah. And then after that, it's like, well, not after that, but it's like we're on that descent of the year, getting closer to the top 10 of the year, you know, and really getting into grind time of trying to figure out what's going to be, you know, our top 10 match. All right, some technical difficulties happened, but we're back. But
if there was a break in the audio, it's because Jack went on a vicious tirade filled with profanities. And I was like, Jack, Jack, I don't think this is good for any streaming service. He says, I don't care, Mr. Solis. This is how I feel about women booking in wrestling across all the promotions. And then he just went on I've never heard such words come out of Jack's mouth.
Yeah, and then, I even circled back to my episode this morning talking about the Phillies, getting knocked out the playoffs, and even more profanity just filled the air.
Oh, no. Sorry to hear that, sir.
It was funny. I got to ask my dad what he thought about it, but I literally opened the episode by going, how like when a teacher comes back after a substitute and they're like, never in all my years of teaching?
Yes.
I opened the episode and I was like, never throughout my years of podcasting, I've always tried to keep it family friendly, especially because my dad listens and family listens and friends. So I try and keep it family friendly. But never have I felt the desire more to just go on a curse-filled tirade than I do today.
Wow. Were you standing at the front of your desk, Jack, leaning with your hands at your sides?
Yeah. I got so tempted to just grab this mic and just start like going like this back and forth, yelling into it.
Dang.
But just wrapping things up real quickly, I think Mr. Solis was saying, talking about Naito needing to win.
No, needing to lose.
Oh, yeah,
Naito
not to win.
lose
To lose.
and go to bed, just like I have to. So here's hoping for Zack Sabre Jr. to clinch the New Japan, what would it be, IWGP Heavyweight Championship still?
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it nowadays.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to the next time we'll probably meet is probably for Crown Jewel.
All right, I'll be there.
Yeah, and then probably
champion versus champion where the title's not on the line, and I'm not upset.
Yeah, and then I think after that, Survivor Series. I don't know what they have in December, but you know what you can expect from us in December.
Our top 10 matches of 2024.
Yeah, Mr. Solis's list and my list filled of names you've never heard before.
Jack's gonna put Julia versus Roxanne Perez, NXT No Mercy, number 2.
Oh, man. But with that being said, thank you all for joining for this episode. Thank you all for listening in. I've been Jack, joined by
Mr. Solis.
Thank you all for joining for this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.